feeling is healing. At least that's what I learned as I was on my healing journey. And when I decided to get on my healing journey, that was probably one of the most important lessons and abilities and skills that I needed to acquire, because I never knew how to feel. I never knew how to express. I never knew how to articulate any of my emotions. I didn't even know what emotions were. I was only familiar with two or three, maybe four at the max. But my childhood was riddled with trauma, with neglect, with abuse, with abandonment. And I had to learn real quick at a very young age how to suppress and repress my emotions. Because if I didn't, I would get reprimanded, I would get disciplined, I would get abused. And over many years of my upbringing, and even to my early adulthood, I developed all of these coping mechanisms, all of these ways to deal with emotions. And I truly believe that led to me rebelling when I was in high school. And I rebelled severely. I rebelled tremendously. Once I was 17, junior, going on 18, my father always told me, once you're 18 in this country, the United States, you're already an adult, so there's nothing else I could do. So I was hoping and praying until I would become 18. And when I did, I moved out. Right after I graduated, got my own place, I rebelled, got into drugs, got into the fast life. If you've been following me, you know my story. And so that was part of my rebellion. That was part of my coping and numbing myself, because I didn't want to feel. And a lot of times that I would numb myself, I would have all these artificial feelings because of the substance. And I was trying to not process or feel the experiences that I never got the chance to experience in that moment in my childhood. And so as I got older, those suppressed emotions, they started to come out. They started to present itself as anger, as insecurity, as all of these negative behaviors. And it especially came out during my relationships. And I've had many relationships, I've had many lessons that I had to learn, a lot of mirrors that presented itself in those relationships. And at the time, in my awareness, I wasn't ready. I wasn't able to see the red flags. I wasn't able to see my own doing. I was so wrapped up in my own behaviors and in my own thoughts and ego that I thought that I was untouchable. I thought that everything I did was because of who I was. And I never bowed down to try to change myself or try to be better, even though my girlfriends at the time were telling me, you have an anger issue, or you're not supposed to do that, or why are you yelling so much? Like, I just thought that it was a part of my personality, and I identified with those behaviors because that was who I was. And I truly believed that. And so that caused a lot of problems in my relationships. That caused a lot of strife, that caused a lot of suffering. And I was a person who would jump relationship to relationship, because once it got hard, My coping mechanism was to escape, was to throw it under the rug, act like nothing happened, was to get angry, was to punch things, was to do all of these things that were very harmful. And looking back at it now, like I mentioned, I saw that because of all the things that happened to me during my childhood, I wasn't allowed to feel. I wasn't allowed to sit with those emotions and experience the hardship, literally experience the suffering or experience the message or the situation that I was supposed to experience. And I never learned how to healthily cope with those emotions. It always came with a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt and abuse. That's why I was so scared. That's why I was so fearful of trying to show any type of emotions. And that does something to your psyche if you've grown up in a situation like that. It does something to your mind, and it causes these behaviors because your body is always trying to protect you. Your mind is always trying to protect you. So if you're always in constant fear, it will develop and create these stories, or you're going to start identifying with these behaviors to always try to protect you from harm's way. And harm's way is all of the abuse, all of the ridicule, all of the shame, all of these hard emotions and difficult emotions that you're trying not to feel. But the thing that I've learned about emotions after doing a lot of healing work and energy work was emotions are just experiences. They're messages. They're trying to tell you something about the situation that you're in. Your body is trying to have you go through this experience. And either it could be pleasant or unpleasant, but an experience nonetheless. And that emotion is actually energy. Each emotion on the spectrum of emotions is a specific type of energy frequency. And we're supposed to feel those emotions because the energy has to move in your body. And when you feel something, your body automatically reacts. Your body will start to send signals to let you know, like, hey, something's going on. I'm feeling a certain way. How do we regulate ourselves back to homeostasis, back to being normal, right? We're not trying to suppress it. We're not trying to repress it. We're not trying to even stop it, even though it might feel in the moment very painful. We're supposed to let it be and then help ourselves regulate in that moment until that experience is over. So someone like me who has grown up in a situation where I never learned that as a child, and I was never given the chance to even express or feel in the moment, that caused me to be very internal, that caused me to numb myself, that caused me to develop these other coping mechanisms that were very unhealthy. It's like I was piling up all of these negative experiences in a little corner in my body. And then sooner or later, when my body couldn't handle it anymore, and the trigger came by something small, like someone saying something to me, or someone looking at me in a different way, or someone cutting me off on the freeway, boom, it would explode out of me. And all of that pent up energy, all of those pent up emotions, all of a sudden came out. And then I became sporadic, I became irrational, I became very mean, even evil at times. Because I remember saying some things to people that I really regret. And it was very hurtful, and I'm not proud of it. But in the moment, you lose control because, like I mentioned before, those energies, those emotions need to go somewhere. They need to be expressed, they need to be felt, they need to be moved. That energy needs to move. Energy has to always move, and emotions are just energy in motion. So when you feel a specific emotion, that energy has to move through your body and out into the ether, out into somewhere. So you might be wondering, after all of that, how did you learn how to feel again? How did you learn how to regulate yourself and do it in a very healthy way? And that's a good question. And if you're struggling with that, beloved, I hope this episode is going to give you some insight and some practical tips to help you implement some things so that you can allow yourself to feel and not resort to suppression or repression or numbing yourself or avoiding the specific emotion. So for me, once I had my catalyst moment of wanting to heal, I knew that there was a type of inability for me to express my emotions. And even understanding that took me a long time. I'm talking like a couple of years, right? And it was due to the help and the guidance of my wife. You know, she was a huge part of helping me understand emotions because she's highly sensitive. She's an empath. I didn't even know what the heck that was. I didn't even know any of that when we got together. And so when I learned from her and other things that I got into, books and podcasts, I started to understand what emotions really were. And I started to make the connection that emotions are very physical, and it was signals sent from your body, and it connects to you, it connects in the experience that you're having in the moment, and you're supposed to allow. They say feeling is healing, right? So you're supposed to allow those feelings, but you're not supposed to attach yourself to those emotions. And so what I had to learn how to do was feel the sensations, feel how it feels in my body, understand why it happened and the stimuli that was causing this experience within my body. The only thing that I was familiar with was feeling angry all the time. And the way anger would feel in my body was I would get tensed. I would have sometimes heart palpitations. I would have chest pain, and my breath would be very shallow. Sometimes I would hold my breath. I would clench my fist. I would clench my jaw. These are physical reactions due to the emotions that I was feeling. But for a long time, I wasn't aware of that. I had no knowledge or awareness that that was happening as I was experiencing the emotion. Now, when I started to implement creating more awareness by slowing down, by meditation, by journaling, by just being silent and pausing with myself in the moment, that's when I started to gain the awareness of how it feels to experience that emotion. And then I can articulate exactly how I felt. And that was the next step. I had to learn how to literally articulate and say out loud, I am feeling fill in the blank emotion. Okay. So for a long time, I didn't even know how to do that. I didn't even know how to say and name the emotion. And so once I was able to experience the emotion and feel it in my body, understand the sensations that were happening in my body, then I was able to articulate and explain exactly what I was feeling. And most times I would say, I'm feeling really conflicted, and I feel like something's in my gut, and it doesn't feel good. I'm feeling a bit nauseous, and I'm getting a headache, and I'm just I'm just not in my right mind right now, right? And so I would say those things and I would verbalize it. And even after verbalizing it and being able to articulate it, I found that it was getting a little bit easier for me to sit with the emotion, to sit with that emotional experience. And then it also helped that as I was learning this and implementing it, my wonderful wife, she already knew how to support me, and she already knew how to help me explain things in the moment. And it didn't cause us to have our fights like before. It didn't cause me to shut down. It didn't cause me to experience more shame or guilt. I mean, that took a long time though, but still, it was leading towards a healthier way to cope. And so when I was able to articulate, I was then able to reflect deeper in those moments. And this came with more practice of meditation, more practice of being still with myself, biting my tongue, allowing myself to not be so reactive. And I'll give you a little secret that helped me. I started to understand the sensations in my body and my emotions from doing hot yoga. Just something about that, with the sweat coming down your body, holding the pose in a hot room, and then you're feeling the sensation, like every drop of sweat coming down your face, or the twitching and the tweaks in your body as you're trying to be still in that pose or in that position. And it's hot and it feels uncomfortable, but you're sitting in it. So that was the first taste that I got physically to help me understand how to connect with my body deeper. And then what I would do is I would go work out, because at that time I was really into my self-improvement. I was really trying to get healthy. I was really trying to be better for myself, mind, body, and spirit. So, I was practicing all these mindfulness practices, and then, but I was still, working out, trying to eat healthy. And I remember I would go work out, and then after my workout, I would sit and do a meditation. Because after working out, your muscles are sore, right? Your muscles are, tensed up, they're pumped up. And then you're just going to sit and you're sweating and you're going to sit and try to relax, right? So I did that for many months, and I found that it helped me understand all the sensations that were happening in my body. And I would contemplate and set the intention before I go into meditation and say, okay, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to feel? How does this emotion feel like? How does this part of my body feel this emotion, right? And it would help because each bead of sweat that would come down, I could feel it slowly drip, down into the side of my temple, into my face, and then sometimes on my lap, or underneath my armpit, in my shirt. Like, I felt every sensation, but that expanded my awareness in how to listen to my body and how to connect deeper into my body. And that transcended into me connecting deeper into my emotions when I would feel those things. So as time passed, when I would feel emotions, I was able to create this space. And instead of being reactive, I would be in this space and allow myself to feel these emotions in my body. All the sensations, all of the little, stimulus that was happening everywhere from my toes all the way to my head, every heart palpitation, every tension point, every spot of resistance, even the spasms in my thighs or my back. I felt all of that. And I never judged them. I tried not to judge them. I tried not to attach myself to it. I was just being an observer to the experience that was happening internally in my body. And I would allow it to happen. And as I got better at doing that, the space between the instance of the situation that triggered it to my reaction got bigger and bigger. And that space now is a point of peace. And it just tells me how much work I've done for myself to be able to do that. And that's only one of the first things when you start to feel, because like I mentioned, emotions are very physical, right? It happens very fast. Emotions come even before thoughts. And you know how fast we can think things, but emotions is very instant. And if you have a lot of stored up negative emotions, your body is going to react very quickly. It's going to try to protect you. It's going to try to make you do things that might not want you to feel those emotions because it remembers. There's a great book out there called The Body Keeps the Score. And your body keeps the score every time you weren't able to express or experience the emotions when they first happen. That's why when negative emotions arise, sometimes or most times, you get transported right back into your body gets transported right back into the exact moment that you first felt that emotion. And you're reliving that trauma over and over. And so that's why it can be very detrimental to your overall health, because now your body is in a heightened point of stress. And we all know what being in prolonged stress does to your body. For me, when I started to feel, that's what I started to do. I started to really come to my own awareness by implementing meditation, implementing mindfulness, uh, reading a lot of books, listening to a lot of podcasts, listening to other people. I just became silent. And in the moment of stillness and silence, that's where I was able to experience this beautiful transformation of understanding how my body works. Because that's what literally trauma is. It's a disconnection of you to your body, right? Of you to your intuition, of you to this vessel. So when you reconnect that, it becomes very sacred. It becomes very special, and you become more aware of how powerful you are in the moment of stress, in the moment of suffering, in the moment of adversity. You understand how your body starts to react. And once you understand that, and once you can articulate that, and once you understand the meanings behind that, you become a very powerful person. And I remember listening to Sadhguru. He said, specifically something about anger, because someone asked him, how come you never get angry? And I'm going to paraphrase this. He says, anger is an emotion, and I don't give anyone that power to make me feel such a negative emotion. And when I heard that, I was just blown away. I was like, yeah, ultimately, we have control over our emotions. And before, when I was very unaware, unhealed, I didn't have control. I just let the emotion project itself. I just let the emotion control me, and then I would do something stupid and irrational. But now, when the emotions come, I'm able to regulate, I'm able to be an observer, and I'm able to respond in a very healthy way. And I'm not saying that I don't feel these negative emotions or I'm not thinking crazy things in my mind, because that's what your body and mind does, but it's the response. It's how you are after that internal experience. Am I going to say things that are in my mind in the moment of anger and frustration and irritation? No. Right? So I strive to be the person that is very calm, that is very methodical, that is very empathetic and compassionate, because I've been through these experiences. And when I see other people projecting or going through that same experience, I try to give them the space and understanding that they lack, because I'm not going to feed into that. I'm not going to let their situation impact me and bring out those negative behaviors, right? I've done that for many, many years. And so that's how I started to feel. We can talk about the things that happen in your mind in a later episode, because I think that's also important. But to feel is definitely to heal, and you have to let yourself feel. The key thing is you cannot attach yourself to that emotion. And if you struggle with these, please, please, please DM me or send me a message, comment on this video or episode, and hopefully, I can give you some insights. And this is an ongoing thing for me. Just because I can do this now doesn't mean that sometimes I don't struggle. I still do. I mean, I got 3 kids, and they're mirrors to me, and they do things, and I still find myself trying to calm down, trying not to be reactive, so you have to choose to do this and continue to implement and practice this skill, if you want to be better at it. And like I said, I'm doing this every single day, but it's such a rewarding feeling, and it's so enlightening. And I'm so grateful that I've taken this step to do this, because I've felt less stress, I've felt happier, I've felt more peace, more contentment, and that's all that matters to me. Like I mentioned, if you struggle with this, leave me a comment, send me a DM. But hopefully, after listening to this, it's giving you some practical tips to help you get started if you are struggling with feeling or understanding your emotions, or where to get or how to manage, and regulate yourself in those emotions. So I hope this helps. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I will see you in the next episode.